Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the thriller suspense films from 2024, titled Invasive. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with a woman named Lara arriving at a desolate place in the middle of nowhere. She exits her car and leaves a voicemail for someone, stating that she followed his directions and arrived at a strange location. A few moments later, Lara notices a red box with her name in the distance. She nervously opens it and finds a note saying, "Thank you." A confused Lara proceeds to leave, but she suddenly feels dizzy and collapses. Soon, a mysterious man arrives out of nowhere and drags her away. The scene cuts to an upscale party at a lavish mansion perched on a mountain. There, we meet two waiters, Kay and Riley, who are impressed by the place's sheer luxury. Riley mentions that the host owns the entire mountain and will leave tomorrow, which sparks an idea in their minds. Next, we meet the property's owner, Pierce Patton, a genius billionaire who has made a name for himself in medical advancement. He is bragging about his achievements when a journalist arrives and greets him. The journalist then shows him an article he wrote, praising Pierce's accomplishments. However, Pierce becomes fixated on the fact that the journalist used a different photograph than the one he chose for the magazine cover. He gets upset, so his girlfriend, Jessica, assures him that he looks gorgeous. Afterward, Riley scans the place with a special app, and discovers there are no cameras in the entire mansion except for a video doorbell. He's confused as to why there's no security, and Kay comments that Pierce won't have to worry since he owns the entire mountain. Since the two are homeless, they decide to stay here after Pierce leaves, as the billionaire only visits the mansion on rare occasions. That evening, as the other workers are leaving, Kay sneakily takes their belongings and goes to hide in some area of the house. Later, Riley returns to the house, and informs Kay, who has been inside, that he's signed them out of their jobs that day. They then proceed to hide in the garage for the night. The next day, Kay watches Pierce and Jessica leave, and the duo begins to enjoy the luxuries of the mansion. Moments later, a gay gold digger, Riley, reveals that he is matched with a billionaire on a dating app, and is hiking 5 miles to meet him. Kay is worried about staying alone, but Riley assures him that he will be back soon. In the evening, an alone Kay is relaxing in the bedroom when she's suddenly startled by the sound of a vehicle. She realizes Pierce has unexpectedly returned, and rushes to hide behind a couch. Kay notices that the guy is not alone, and is accompanied by the journalist from the party. The journalist sits on the couch, and begins asking Pierce about his recent work and research. But the billionaire doesn't seem in the mood to answer, and starts pouring wine for them instead. After the journalist takes a few sips, Pierce suddenly asks him why he chose the photo that he didn't approve of, and if the journalist's opinion is better than Pierce's. This question unnerves the journalist, but as he tries to respond, he suddenly becomes dizzy. His whole body becomes paralyzed, and he can't move an inch or speak. Pierce then shows off his new invention, a transdermal patch that was placed in the wine glass to drug him. The journalist soon collapses on the floor and notices Kay on the other side. Up next, Pierce drags him away and walks off. Kay seizes the chance to flee, but she drops her necklace and spills the wine glass. She heads to a room, where she calls Riley for help, but he doesn't answer. Meanwhile, Pierce returns to the living room, sees the spilled wine, and realizes someone else is in the mansion. He also spots the necklace on the floor. Kay, on the other hand, dials 911, and declares that she urgently needs help at Pierce Patton's mansion, but just then, Pierce puts the mansion on lockdown, and the signal is cut off. Next, Pierce speaks to Kay through the speakers, and demands to know who she is. He reveals that the entire place is in lockdown, and there's no way out until she comes in front of him. Kay desperately searches for an exit, but all the doors, and even windows are locked. Pierce then grabs a gun and begins searching for her. Shortly after, Kay reaches upstairs, and tries to sneak outside by the roof, but it's locked too. The desperate girl attempts to smash the reinforced glass, but it doesn't break. And then all of a sudden, Pierce shows up, and watches her calmly from the other side. Kay runs downstairs, and searches for another escape route. Finally, she manages to unscrew a vent cover, and squeeze through the narrow hole. But as she gets outside, she realizes that the ground is still too high, but thankfully there is a pool. With no other option, she jumps into the water, and lands safely. Not long after, Pierce arrives at the poolside to see where she is. But what he doesn't know is that Kay is still hidden in the water, holding her breath. Seeing he's gone, Kay tries to climb ashore, but is shocked to see Pierce standing directly next to her. The billionaire comments that she is just a child, and asks what she's doing in his mansion. Kay apologizes, and says she didn't have anywhere else to go. Pierce recalls that she is from the catering company, and tells her to come out of the water or threatens to shoot her. At this moment, Pierce gets an alert on his phone and notices that police have arrived outside his mansion. But he doesn't seem scared, and presses a button on his phone, causing a steel plate to slowly emerge over the water. Kay pleads with him to let her out, but soon, she finds herself completely trapped in the pool. Next, Pierce goes to greet the cop, who reveals that they received a distress call from the residents. The billionaire claims there is no one here except for him, but the cop insists on taking a look. Once inside, he notices spilled wine on the floor, and Pierce explains that it's from his clumsy girlfriend, who is in the city. During this, Pierce discreetly deactivates the signal blocking technology in the mansion. They soon arrive in front of an elevator, and Pierce states that it leads directly to his office. He claims that his field is highly sensitive, and he can't allow anyone there. When the officer insists on checking it, Pierce texts the chief police commissioner, who is a friend. The commissioner then calls the cop, and instructs him not to bother Pierce. Elsewhere, Kay finds a button on the pool, which she assumes controls the steel plate. She begins relentlessly punching it, hoping to escape. Meanwhile, the cop apologizes to Pierce for disturbing him and decides to leave the mansion. Moments later, Kay finally succeeds in smashing the button, and the steel plate opens just enough for her to escape. She climbs out of the water, but she's shocked when she notices the cop's car leaving. Kay rushes towards the vehicle, but to no avail, as the front gate immediately shuts, leaving her trapped in the mansion. Next, Kay arrives at the garage and searches for a door opener. But she accidentally triggers a car alarm, which catches Pierce's attention. He soon arrives at the spot, forcing her to hide under a car. But even after searching for a while, he can't find her, so he opens the garage door to look outside. Seeing this, Kate sneaks out and heads to the elevator. But then, moments later, Pierce arrives at the elevator, but only finds the paralyzed journalist there. After he leaves, we see Kay hiding behind the journalist. She presses a hidden button on the elevator, causing the elevator to descend rapidly. But then it stops, and Kay steps outside to discover a hidden underground facility. Just then, the elevator behind her shuts, and Kay begins walking down a dark corridor. She soon enters a laboratory filled with strange instruments. Kay also discovers some transdermal patches invented by Pierce, and takes one with her. And then, to her horror, she stumbles upon a room where several people are chained and are horribly disfigured. One of them is Lara, whom we saw at the beginning of the movie. This leaves Kay horrified as she realizes that Pierce has been conducting these gruesome human experiments in secret. Pierce, on the other hand, gets an alert on his phone that someone has accessed his underground facility. Meanwhile, a terrified Kay begins recording the disfigured people on her phone. But when Lara suddenly starts moving, she drops her phone, and runs away in horror. She then returns to the elevator, and is shocked to find Pierce there. Kay flees to a nearby room to hide, but Pierce chases her, explaining that he is only using these people to achieve a revolutionary breakthrough in medicine. Unfortunately, he soon catches up to Kay, so the girl grabs a nearby scalpel and stabs him. She rushes straight to the elevator, and manages to hit the close button just before Pierce catches up. As Kay approaches the front gate outside, she runs into Jessica and breathes a sigh of relief. Kay tries to explain what happens, but seeing her bloodied hands, Jessica becomes alarmed by the strange woman. She pulls out her gun, and asks if Kay hurt her boyfriend. The latter tries to explain again, but a skeptical Jessica forces Kay to return to the mansion. Once inside, Kay finally explains everything to Jessica about how Pierce is a monster, and kidnaps people for his experiments. But the naive woman doesn't believe her and calls her a psycho. Pierce soon shows up, and then explains that Kay has been squatting in their place. Kay even saw him with the journalist, and went to the hidden facility. It is at this point that we learn that Jessica is also an accomplice in her boyfriend's work. Desperate, Kay states that she filmed everything when Pierce drugged the journalist and took him away. She claims that because it happened before he blocked the signal, it was automatically synced to her cloud, where others can access it. Jessica demands her phone, and Kay will only give it to her if they let her go. Hearing this, Pierce immediately shoots her with a tranquilizer and paralyzes her. He then places her on a stretcher, and takes her away from there. The next morning, Riley finally returns to the mansion, and calls Kay, but gets no response. He assumes she's upset because he abandoned her last night. He then spends the rest of the afternoon swimming in the pool, drinking, and enjoying himself around the mansion. Later, Riley accidentally steps on some shattered glass, and heads to a room to tend to his wound. At the same time, Jessica steps out of the elevator, covered in blood. Riley hears noises, and assumes it is Kay, but quickly hides when he notices Jessica and Pierce together. Jessica worries that someone might come looking for Kay, but Pierce claims that the girl is homeless and no one cares about her. Meanwhile, Riley is seen hiding on the other side and overhearing everything. That evening, while Jessica is alone in her room, Riley sneaks in, and quickly grabs her gun. He demands to know where his friend is, so Jessica nervously claims that she is downstairs, and proceeds to lead him there. But when they arrive at the living room, she discreetly presses a remote control and plays loud music. The two begin fighting for the gun, right when this happens. Riley accidentally causes Jessica to get impaled on a sharp object, resulting in her immediate death. Soon, Pierce arrives at the living room and is shocked by Jessica's death. Riley claims that he didn't mean to kill her and it was just an accident. He then says all he wants is to find his friend, and then they will leave. And so, Pierce agrees to take him downstairs. Soon enough, they arrive at a lab, where they come across the unconscious body of the journalist, horribly mutilated. Riley asks what happened to him, and Pierce reveals that he induced an acceleration of metastasis. Meaning that he sped up what would normally take years and made it happen in minutes. Pierce did this experiment to create the perfect environment for the rapid growth of cancer cells. This means Pierce basically gave the journalist cancer on purpose, so he could find a cure and demonstrate his brilliance. Horrified, Riley begins calling out for Kay, and Pierce seizes this opportunity to grab a scalpel and attack him. The scene then cuts to some time later. Kay eventually jolts awake. To her surprise, she finds herself in front of a grotesquely tied up figure. Even worse, Pierce soon approaches her and shows her a video of Riley being tortured. He claims that he will go easy on Riley if she decides to cooperate and hand over her phone. Kay reluctantly reveals that it's in the guest room on the 3rd floor, and Pierce proceeds to head there. Afterward, Kay makes several attempts to leave, but all in vain. Just when all hope seems to be lost, Riley unexpectedly shows up, and frees her using a keycard left by Pierce earlier. Riley suggests they call the cops, but he explains that Pierce seized it from him earlier, so they need to use her phone instead. Following this, Kay takes Riley to the exact place where she dropped her phone, which is inside Lara's cell. And then all of a sudden,
Riley, where did you get that?
Riley pulls a gun on her and demands she hand over the phone. Here, Riley suddenly claims that he's tired of being dirt poor, and wants to change his life. Just then, Pierce also arrives, and it is shockingly revealed that Riley made a deal with him to receive $10 million, in exchange for betraying his friend. Kay is shocked, and asks if he truly thinks Pierce will pay him. All of a sudden, Lara, who's behind him, attacks and throws him to the ground. Pierce then approaches Lara to make sure she's okay, and then, he shoots Riley to death. A terrified Kay hears the gunshot, and when she approaches the elevator, it doesn't open without a keycard. She thus brings out her phone and comes up with an idea. Next, Kay approaches Pierce, who is about to remove Riley's organs. Kay then pleads with him to let her go, but he demands the phone from her. Surprisingly, she hands it to him without hesitation, and even gives him the password. Pierce scrolls through the gallery, but doesn't find the shady video she took of him earlier. Here Kay eventually reveals that she didn't film anything, and doesn't even have a cloud account. Enraged for wasting his time, Pierce decides to put an end to this once and for all, and put Kay into his special chamber. But before he can do that, he becomes dizzy, and his body begins to paralyze. It is then revealed that Kay cleverly used a transdermal patch on her phone to drug Pierce. Taking advantage of the moment, she shoves Pierce into the room, which is like a transformation chamber. The man screams in agony as the chemicals begin to take their toll. Meanwhile, Kay grabs a keycard and dashes down the hallway. But then, she is soon followed by a disfigured Pierce. He tries to attack her, but she delivers a powerful kick and shoves him away. Kay then enters the elevator, and hits the close button, crushing Pierce's head in the process. In the final scene, Kay calls 911 and confesses that she killed Pierce Patton. She waits patiently outside the mansion as the distant sound of police sirens becomes louder. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.